I remember finding church extremely boring. When you turn 6 or 7, you get a little old to go to nursery during church. And so I remember having to sit with my family during church. I would sit between my sisters and my parents, and I wouldn't listen to the pastor at all. I would completely tune him out and try to entertain myself looking at the maps in my Bible. I had an adventure Bible. Yeah, I was cool like that. I would doodle in it. I would find pictures of people in the church bulletins. Um, I draw on their faces and make them look like pirates or old people who didn't have any teeth and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, church was boring, and this is why. There was one man talking for like 45 minutes straight. We went to a huge church. I mean, along with the sanctuary, the church that I went to had two balconies in it. And even though we sat a bit closer to the front, we still couldn't see the pastor's face. So they projected his face on these two huge screens back behind him. And whenever he'd read a Bible verse, they'd project that up there too, just in case you were too lazy to actually turn there in your own Bible. All the pews were lined up in these huge straight rows with everyone looking in the same direction. The walls were made up of these ugly, shiny, pink marble tiles. And I just remember sitting there bored out of my mind. And whenever I get to thinking back to those days, I think to myself, did church always used to be that way? I mean, it couldn't have. I mean, it wasn't. When the church started, you were likely to hear the wind. You were likely to hear waves falling on a pebbly shore. During church, there was a possibility that you could be rained on. Why is that? Because the first church services took place outside on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. I'm talking about Jesus. I mean, he's the one who started the church. And he spent the first 30 years of his life in obscurity. I mean, he wasn't a public figure for a long time. He was just a carpenter. But one day he decided to go visit his cousin John, who baptized people. He dunked people underwater. So one day Jesus went to his cousin John, and John baptized him. And when he came out of the water, plain as day, everyone could hear it. God spoke from heaven and said of Jesus, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." And right after that happened, Jesus left that place, went out into this deserted wilderness for 40 days. Now, during that 40 days, he didn't eat a thing. He slept outside, got water anywhere he could, but he just spent 40 days all by himself, getting close to his Father, getting close to God. And when that 40 days was over, first of all, he got something to eat, but then he went to the Sea of Galilee and started walking along the shore. Now, the Sea of Galilee isn't really a sea. It's a lake. It's not incredibly big. You can see from one side of it to the other without too much trouble. It doesn't have salt water or big waves or anything like that. Anyway, that's where Jesus went. And he started walking along the shore, and he came up on these two brothers named Peter and Andrew, and they were fishing. That was their job. That's how they made their living. That's how they put food on the table. That's how they survived. And Jesus came up to them and said, "Hey, give up fishing for life. Quit working and come follow me from now on." And Peter and Andrew dropped what they were doing and started following Jesus. Well, the three of them walked a little further down the beach and came up on two more brothers who were fishing, named James and John. Jesus said the same thing to them. He said, "Come follow me." And they dropped what they were doing and decided to do whatever it was that Jesus was doing. And these were Jesus's first disciples. In all, there were 12 of them. And from here on out, what we know as a church got its beginnings. And it didn't take place in buildings. People didn't sit in pews all facing in one direction. There was no such thing as a PowerPoint presentation with cutesy inspirational backdrops. They had church on the hill surrounding the Sea of Galilee. They just spent time together listening to Jesus' teaching, talking with each other, relating with each other. There wasn't this strict hierarchy that we have now. It was just Jesus and his closest friends spending time together and making each other better people. That's how the church started. It was a church without walls. Now, church didn't always stay that way. Basically, this is a huge generalization, but basically the church has gone through three major shifts. And it's basically the same story told three times in a row. But the church started out as what we call the early church, which was mostly Jewish. There were very Jewish customs, very Jewish ways of doing things. In fact, most of the people in the church were Jewish. And that lasted for quite a while until about the 3rd century AD, when this guy named Constantine entered the picture. He was the emperor of Rome, and he decided that he was going to make Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire. And this gave birth to the Roman Catholic Church, which, other than the major belief systems, did not resemble the early church much at all. It was no longer a quote-unquote Jewish religion, but a religion all into its own. The Catholic Church did some cool stuff. Confession was a good touch. It kept people accountable to their actions. In fact, I wish we had that today. You probably wouldn't be half so eager to do a lot